Again, welcome to the Sumo Logic Observability Fundamentals. This is part of a two-day U.S. East Coast Cert Jam, but regardless of the fact whether you're on the U.S. East Coast or you're someplace else in the world, glad to have you. My name is John Meredith. I am a Sumo employee, have been with Sumo a little less than 2 years. It'll be 2 years in January. And wanted to welcome you all to this session. I am a trainer. That's what I've spent a majority of my career doing. I've also worked as an IT manager, a DBA, a programmer, a network admin, all that fun stuff. But always managed to go back to doing what I do, what I enjoy doing best, which is teaching. What you're seeing behind me is my home office. So the kids are grown and gone. They have their own lives, and as such, we've taken over and commandeered their rooms, and so this is. This is my office. Anyway, so let's get started. Our goal today is to talk about observability fundamentals. And the only thing I ask as a trainer is that, if you got a question, please ask it. I have learned through the years that when you ask a question, 3 groups of people benefit. Number one, you get the answer to your question. So obviously you win. The second point, though, is that you help calibrate the instructor. You tell us what's important to you by asking your questions. And that's really helpful for us. So keep those questions coming in. And then, of course, the third group of people who win when you ask a question is everybody else, because your question will typically get them to think about, oh, that's right, I wanted to ask about XYZ or something related to it. And so before you know it, we've covered things in a very real and interactive way, rather than me trying to do this, video talking headshot type thing, which I am going to turn the video off just to save a little bandwidth there. But so please ask your questions, okay? And again, make this go real well. So our focus today is observability fundamentals. I'm also going to assume that some of you were not in yesterday's session, so I will rehash a couple of resources and other things for you. Okay, so here we go. We are going to talk about the components that make up our observability solution. We're going to talk about the 3 pillars of the observability solution, namely metrics, tracing, and logs. And you will see this in the certification exam. So metrics, tracing, and logs. We'll also talk about some of the tools and technologies that we've created, like the root cause explorer and tracing, and the service map, and how we can trace various incidences to troubleshoot an issue. And then, of course, the last hour of this will be dedicated for you to take a certification exam. And we encourage you to take the certification exam, and we will even sweeten up the deal. So I'll talk about sweeten up the deal here in a second. So here is kind of the agenda of what's happening and how we're going to go through this. It's going to be kind of a combination of lecture labs as we go through things, with lots and lots of labs here to play with. We'll have 4 labs to poke at, and I will post up here in a few minutes. We actually have a PDF that kind of walks you through the labs. So, as I said, I was going to encourage you all to take the exam. And what we're doing right now is, if you take the exam right after the session and you complete it, all you have to do is, of course, when you complete it, you get your certification. If you take that certification and you send it to training@sumologic.com with your email address, we will send you a $15 voucher for Uber Eats, okay? Where Uber Eats is available. So, for example, I believe that Uber Eats is available in Germany. So for my student in Germany, I think we can do that. I know it's available in the United States. Keep in mind, it takes us up to about 48 hours to turn this around. Shouldn't take that long, but again, there's one person that receives these and processes and sends it out. So, but basically, if you take and pass the exam right after this class, and you just email us your certificate, just so we have it, and send it to training@sumologic.com, we will send you a $15 Uber Eats voucher. So, wanted to make you aware of that little promotion. All right. Again, if we go through here, if you get any questions, feel free to let me know. Irina, welcome to class. See, a couple folks have straggled in. Jason, welcome. And Vincent, welcome as well. We enable the microphone so you guys can ask your questions. Again, if you're bashful, though, you can also ask them through the chat box, whichever mechanism works for you. But please ask your questions. So what do we mean by observability? And why is observability so important, right? We are a logs management type company, right? So yesterday, for those of you in class yesterday, we talked about how with Sumo Logic, I could look and see how my systems are behaving, how my security, where my users are logging in from. Yesterday, a big focus was on security. So we created some queries where we could see our users are logging from, and if we had any land speed violations and all that sort of thing. I can see what they're interested in based on my website, various things that they order and purchase. So we can use Sumo Logic for some sort of business intelligence. And then, of course, at a very high level, I can look at operational intelligence, security intelligence, business intelligence at a very high level to see what people and customers and areas might be impacted. So if GuardDuty, for example, AWS GuardDuty reports that there's an attack going on somewhere in the world, we can see maybe the people who might be affected, customers who might be affected, that sort of thing. Again, your data comes from a wide variety of things, various applications, microservices, might be on the cloud, might be using things like Salesforce or Office 365, software as a service. Of course, we're all using mobile devices these days, third-party apps. We don't care. As long as those generate logs and or have the capability to generate metrics, we can process them. And again, as far as your role, maybe you're in DevOps, maybe you're in SecOps, maybe you're, customer success, whatever your role is, I think you'll find that there's something here in Sumo Logic land that can help you and be valuable to you. Now, Sumo Logic itself was born in the cloud, raised in the cloud. We happen to run on AWS, but we also work with Azure and other products as well. We scale up and scale out as we need to. We support multi-tenancy, but all your data is encrypted. It is all secure, only for you and your company. We do have a series of APIs, application programming interfaces, where you can make, programmatic calls and connections to stand up collectors or create user accounts and things like that programmatically. Yesterday, we saw some functions of advanced analytics, log reduce, log compare, outliers, and a bunch of other things. Probably the most important thing on the slide right here is security and monitoring. We work with great rigor and great discipline to maintain our SOC 2 compliance, our PCI compliance, CSA star compliance. About 5 months ago, we received our FedRAMP moderate authorization. So now we can work with the US government. So that was, of course, obviously a process to go through. So we maintain and we work very, very hard to maintain a very secure environment so that you know that your data is safe and secure. And like I said, we've got all these regulatory certifications to back us up. Now, again, what do we mean by observability? Well, typically, if you might have an alert or something that says, oh, gee, I've got a problem here. Well, that's not observability test, that's monitoring. So we want to observe an app and any failure. And so one of the fictitious companies we talk about here is Sumo Logic Coffee, right? Sumo Logic Coffee provides a great cup of coffee. It's a fictitious company, probably like a company that you might be familiar with, a green logo, which produces a great cup of coffee, but they're copyrighted all along the way. And so we decided to create our own fictitious company here, similar to theirs, so we can avoid the copyright issues. But we want to be notified and be alerted if there's a problem, which makes sense, but that's really not observability. And then we want to investigate this, and we want to be able to determine root cause analysis. That's observability, okay? We want to be able to identify what's causing this and be able to resolve it. And so, we typically might have some dashboards for some monitoring and some notifications, that's fine. But we really want to be able to dig into it. We want to be able to use and develop tools, which we have, to investigate and see exactly what's causing this. And today you're going to see 4 such tools in action, so we can see what's happening. And then, of course, you want to be able to take action based on your discovery. And then you can go ahead and look for other app failures and investigate and go through the process again. To us, that's observability. It's more than just monitoring and alerting. It's digging deep, okay? The 3 pillars of observability, you'll see this in the test question, are tracing, metrics, and logs. Many of you are probably very familiar with our logs and metrics. If you've had our other classes, our search mastery class, we focus on grabbing data from logs. And we have a metric mastery class as well. Well, we've added some tracing components here to where we can see the transactions and how they go through the system to see maybe where they're getting hung up or maybe where they're getting rerouted, or again, to help us understand what's going on with regards to the flow of things. You'll find out, and I'll get into this later when we talk about tracing, think of it as somebody shipping a package, all the different ways that a package could get shipped to you and seeing all the different points of where that package is along the way. Same sort of thing with tracing. You've got a transaction that's going on, whether somebody's trying to pay with credit card or whatever. They could go a lot of different points along the way to, if you've got a bunch of microservices, a cloud environment, a bunch of cloud environments, they could be going across different nodes and things like that to see what's going on. And we want to see, where things are failing, where their problems are, and understand that transaction and where what's happening. So, companies can talk about logs and metrics. And in the past, we've certainly talked about logs and metrics. And metrics typically tell us what is going on, and logs tell us why it is happening. And that's still true. But if you think about it, we need to broaden our scope and need to provide a practical application for our product. And we want you to be able to use our product to understand how your environments and stuff are running, right? We want to be able to see across, particularly if you're in the cloud environment with a bunch of different nodes and things like that, we want to see across that environment to understand how things are behaving. And that's our goal. Now, the holy grail, of course, in most companies' world is the customer experience, right? The customer, we want our customer to have a great experience in your environment, in your world, with your products, all that sort of thing. Customer experience really consists of 3 pillars and a foundation. The foundation is reliability. You're going to have a strong sense of reliability in order for your customers to get a good experience. No reliability, game's already over. Now, on top of that reliability, you need to make sure that you're available 24/7, right? And you need to have redundancy in there to make sure that if something goes down and stuff like that, you're still available. You need to provide a great performance. When your users go ahead and start clicking into your applications and stuff, you want to make sure that things are responding, that your web pages or your applications are popping very quickly for them, providing them a great sense of performance. And of course, you want to make sure it is secure. Now, we've gone out to various industry leaders in various areas, and we've come up with some interesting statistics for you. As far as availability goes, 100 milliseconds of downtime, which is of course 1/10 of a second, reduces e-commerce sales by 1%. That's pretty significant. So again, it's very important that you have a good sense for your availability. Under performance, half a second latency will drop traffic by 20%. And again, people will go elsewhere. They will find someplace else to buy their product. So again, a very significant thing here. And then, of course, it's also been determined by one of the security companies out there that the denial of service attacks are anticipated to double to about 14.5 million next year. So some very interesting statistics here on things that you and I probably need to think about and be aware of. Yeah. So again, when people think about observability, sometimes they think about monitoring. And that's how they define observability. We're monitoring. We've got alerts. We've got dashboards. We can see what's going on. For us, observability is more than that. We want to monitor, yes, but we want to be able to go deeper. We want to be able to explore what's happening. We want to be able to see why and understand why something went wrong, so we can learn from it, so we can make it better. In fact, when we think in terms of observability solution, we have this iceberg, and the iceberg is probably an excellent analogy, because it's not necessarily what you can see on top of the waterline that's going to cause you problems. It's stuff below the waterline that'll rip a hole in your hull and your ship. And being a retired Navy guy, I can appreciate this. So typically when people think about observability, or we think about observability, we think, first part of it is monitoring. And, basically what is going on, right? My mean time to identify the issue. Typically that takes about 20% of your data. And so We obviously want to be able to offer the ability to monitor. And most of you are familiar that Sumo Logic has all kinds of built-in dashboards and other things to monitor things. But then we want to diagnose this. We want to figure out our mean time to detect, and we want to figure out where things are going wrong. And that takes approximately another 30% of your data. Okay. So we want to kind of diagnose and see what's happening. But ultimately, what we want to do here is troubleshoot. We want to understand the why and the how, which is going to take us into our logs and things like that, to where we can troubleshoot and see tools like root cause explorer. And this may take another 50% of our data. So, but we want to, as far as our observability solution, it's all three of these things. And obviously, the more deeper we get into this, the more data that we're going to play with. So it requires a rich set of data and rich analytics. And you're going to find we built some tools to take advantage of all this that you and I can use. By the way, if there's any questions, don't hesitate to ask. I see a couple folks have joined us. Let me enable your microphones. So welcome, Brian. Welcome, Larry. And
good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Doing well, thank you.
Good, good, good. Yeah, I much rather have conversations with folks than just talk to the slides here. So
sounds good.
All right. So here we are talking about the capabilities of our observability solution, right? And obviously our goal here is to do some sort of incident remediation process. Again, we talked about earlier monitoring. We have alerting and dashboarding capabilities that allow us to see whether a problem has occurred. Then we're going to use things like our Entity Explorer, a new tool, our Trace Analytics, a new tool, and our Metric Explorer to be able to diagnose and to see what's happening. And then ultimately, to troubleshoot, we're going to use things like Root Cause Explorer and log searches to find out exactly why things have gone wrong and be able to troubleshoot and resolve them. So this course, the next hour and 45 minutes, we are going to talk in more detail about all of these new tools. Now, typically, in order to understand our observability solution or understand an observability solution, we need to think, maybe you're in the cloud, maybe you're on-prem. For those of you in the cloud, you've got multiple cloud environments, right? You've got maybe a dev environment, a prod environment, a QA environment. And in there, you've got various data stores. You may have relational data stores, you may have non-relational data stores. And typically, you've got these data stores are being managed by some sort of containers, right? Some sort of pod, some sort of service, whatever. And that service could be running under Java, Python, whatever it's running. And again, you've got multitude of services across your different environments. And then you've got some sort of a gateway here that connects to your client, whether your client is running from a computer or they're running from a mobile device, running through the web, however it's running, they're just flat out running. And so in order to keep track of all the different parts and pieces and understand how this works, we basically need the information from all of these various systems. And we need to be able to look at the transactional nature of the operations, as well as the log data from the various systems to be able to see basically what's going on. So again, this is what allows us to be able to monitor, diagnose, and troubleshoot. And so what you're going to find, and by the way, this slide makes a great test question. And in a minute, I'm going to show you where you can get these slides if you want to for the test. But for example, in order to monitor, I need access to the logs, to the metrics, and to the traces. So for monitoring, logs, metrics, and traces. For diagnosing, I need access to the logs, and I need access to traces. So I can see basically what's happening here across my transactions. So, and I'll get to that in a second. And then as far as troubleshooting, most of the troubleshooting information we'll need is we're going to look at the logs. And you're going to see this when we go through our labs. So what happens up here is when I'm monitoring, I get some sort of a gauge chart or some sort of a chart, maybe some sort of an alert, and it proceeds to tell me I've got a problem. Ultimately, that will take me into, if you're on the cloud, into my deployment, maybe into a specific cluster or a Kubernetes cluster or whatever, looking at my various transactions within those clusters. Again, and then from there, I can go into a specific service, looking at the logs of that service, looking at the logs of that pod, looking at my various components, and I can use the root cause explorer. So we've got a lot of little tools here to play with that we are going to play with in order to be able to do our observability solution. Because our observability solution, as I said, is designed to take us all the way from monitoring, diagnosing, and troubleshooting, so we can figure out what's going on. And if I can get my slide to advance, there we go. Now, as far as, this slide is, who does this provide value to? Well, if you are in DevOps or site reliability engineering, monitoring, diagnosing, and troubleshooting can help you out quite a bit. If you're in software engineering, you can see where it can help you. And if you're in development security ops, you can see where this can help you as well. I'm not one to read all the bullet points off this slide, but I think you'll agree with me that this observability offering has something for everybody. And it is part of Sumo Logic's product now. So I think you'll find that it can be a value to you regardless of your role in your company. Now, we're going to do a little poll activity here. And the purpose of the poll activity is to show you and to get you thinking in terms of where we're going to go next. All right. So, poll activity. Which of the following observability tools make up the three pillars for the observability solution? Please let me know in the chat box, or you're welcome to open up your mic and just verbally spit it out. Hey, Larry, good morning. Welcome. So somebody says tracing, metrics, and logs. That's absolutely right, Jamie. That is absolutely correct. These are the three pillars that make up our observability solution. Absolutely right. And again, you'll see this in the form of a test question later in the certification exam. Now, so we need to have logs, metrics, and traces to be able to see all of our observability solution, pure and simple. All right. Poll activity 2. This is one we haven't talked about. Okay, this is one we have not talked about, but it's going to lead us into our next conversation. So when monitoring the requests per second in an HTTP service, you notice an abrupt spike in traffic. Now, what would cause that spike in traffic, or how would I notice that, or what am I looking at? That's the answer to the question. And you want to know what's happening in your system. Which of the following observability techniques, is it logs, metrics, or traces, will provide that information about that spike in the service? Or more importantly, will show me the spike. Not understand why the spike occurs, but will show me the spike. Is it logs, is it metrics, or is it traces? Which one of these three will show me and create this spike? Trying to read the question here so you guys can help yourselves out. Okay. Jamie says logs. That's not quite what I'm looking for. Logs will tell me why the spike occurred. But as far as this spike going, metrics will show the spike. That's right, Alex. Metrics will show the spike. So yes, we're looking at metrics here. Okay. And this is going to take us into our metrics and our root cause explorer. Now, in just a minute, I'm going to have you guys log in, and then I'm going to show you where the slides are and do some backfilling stuff that we talked about yesterday. But our focus right now is when metrics can be our best option to do our observability stuff. So what is the root cause explorer? Tell you what, let's us log in. I'm going to go into the slide here in a second, but I'm going to show it to you in real time. So what I want to do here, just bear with me a second. Let me skip to this slide. Let me get you guys to log in and let's talk about this thing together, okay? So what I want you to do is just like yesterday, I want you to go out and fire up Google Chrome or Firefox, and I want you to go to service.sumologic.com. That's service.sumologic.com. And then I'd like you to pick a 3-digit number. Now that 3-digit number today can be anywhere from 001 to 999. We're not competing with another class right now. So pick a 3-digit number, same number you used yesterday. For those of you with me yesterday, you can use the same number, that's fine. And you're going to log in as training plus analyst with that 3-digit number at sumologic.com as your email. And then the password is security 21 exclamation mark. And that password changes every single month. I'm copying and putting this information in the chat box to hopefully make it easier for you. So what is it I want you to do? I want you to go to service.sumologic.com, and you should get something that looks like this, a login where it wants an email and it wants a password. Now, I am going to, just for fun here, I'm going to grab the number 603. Why 603, you ask? 603 is the area code for the state of New Hampshire. So I'm going to log in as Training Plus Analyst 603 at sumologic.com. And you, by the way, are welcome to always come back here into this training environment and run through a series of exercises. And then the password here, and let me make it so you can see it, is capital SECURITY, numeral 2, numeral 1, exclamation mark. Security 21, exclamation mark. And if you click sign in, it should let you in. And it looks like somebody's been in here before, left a bunch of tabs open, which is fine. It could have been me. To close up all these tabs, I can click on any one tab, and there's 3 dots here, like a bob or the more action button is what it's called. And I have an option here to close all tabs. And that way I don't have to close them up all individually. Now, for those of you who've been with Sumo Logic for a while, you know we've had logs, search, and metrics and stuff like that. And recently we've been adding all kinds of little other icons in here. Or if I go to my new button, we've been adding all kinds of stuff here, right? And so this is where we're going to discuss those new tools. We're going to discuss traces and spans and service maps and live tail we talked about before, but the Explorer and stuff. So we're going to go over these tools and make them available to you. One other thing I want to mention to you, and I mentioned it yesterday, but I'll mention it again, so some of you probably weren't in yesterday's session. And that is, if you want to access our slides or content for our training material, if you go into your Sumo Logic environment or our training environment, either one, and you open up this navigation panel by clicking on the hamburger menu up here, or Sumo Logic. And then if you go open up help, you'll see there's an area here called community. And if you click on community, it brings you to our Sumo Logic community, where we and our partners and our customers all collaborate and, you know, share ideas and all that good stuff. Here in the search box, if I search for the word slides, SLIDES, you're going to get 2 returns. The first return is all of our courses. The second is a special little 1-hour webinar that we conduct. It's not important for you all to worry about, but folks who are new to Sumo Logic, we do a little 1-hour welcome webinar to help them use and get used to Sumo Logic. But this up here is what we want. So this training and certification labs, webinars, and slides is where we provide a link to our labs, a link to our webinar, a recording of our class, and a link to our slides for each and every one of our certification classes. And so if I scroll down here, here is our observability fundamentals class where we are right now. And you can, I can, we can go in here, and we can, before I do that, hang on, let me copy this and put this in the chat box so you have it in case you want it. So if I go in here and I want to click on my slides, you can download these slides that we have, and you can you've got access to them and make them available. Also, as many of you know from yesterday, if you get stuck on a question and you're not sure what the question is, or you get hung up, I will be here to answer those questions and help you through any questions you get stuck on. So feel free to ask me while you're taking the exam. Okay. If that little panel pops up that just pops, just click away and just move your cursor away and click, and it will go away. So it's something that's trying to promote or sell or whatever, a slide share, and I really don't care. Okay. So I wanted to make you aware of where that stuff is. Okay. And by the way, we also have a couple of workshops and stuff in here as well. So we try to share all this fun stuff. Now, there's one other thing I do want to share with you while I'm here. And that is we have a PDF document that you and I can use to go through the exercises that we're going to go through. So I am uploading it right now to the chat box, and many of you should be able to download it from the chat box. Okay. But if your company restricts your ability to download from chat and Zoom, then you can go out here to Observability Fundamentals, and here where the lab guide is, you can click on this lab guide and you can download this lab guide. So you can either get it from here, from the site, or you can get it from the chat box that I posted up. All right. In fact, let me open mine up here real quick. There we go. So there's that. Okay. And I'll come back to that in just a minute. Good. I just closed everything up. Brilliant. Just give me a second here, folks. So again, what I want you to do is I want you to log in to the Sumo Logic environment. And then I'm going to go back and I'll show you the root cause explorer, and I'll talk about our scenario and all that good stuff. So again, you're going to go to service.sumologic.com. And again, you're going to pick a 3-digit number from 001 to 999, whatever you like. And you're going to log in as training plus analyst with that 3-digit number. I'm going to grab 603 because that's the area code out here in New Hampshire. And again, the password is security with a capital S, number 2, number 1, exclamation mark, security 21, exclamation mark. And that password will change, by the way, in November. If you want to know what that password changes to, I don't know what it is right now, what it'll change to, but come November when it changes, you are welcome to reach out to me and I will tell you what the new password is. I am putting my contact information in here so you can have that information as well. And of course, if there's anything else we can do for you, don't hesitate to reach out. Okay. Hey, Baron, this is John. Welcome to class. So we're hopefully logged in. What I'd like you to do is if you're logged in, please raise your hands. Raise your hands. If you're having problems logging in, please let me know. But hopefully people are logging in and we're all in good shape and life is good. So out of 10 folks, 88 of you have logged in. Good job. Good job. And I realize that for some of you, you're going to get distracted by the day job and you're going to have issues and stuff. So I get it. I'm not expecting 100% participation. But I do want to make sure that everybody has a chance to log in that does. I've just lowered all the hands, so I just took care of that. Now, let's take a look at Root Cause Explorer, right? I can click on this yellow dot right there, or I can go to New, and I can go to Root Cause. And this, folks, is our Root Cause Explorer, and of course, it is wanting to walk me through our Root Cause Explorer. I'm just going to close this up for right now. Now, what our Root Cause Explorer does is it shows me the relationship between all the various services in my environment. Okay. So you'll find that I've got these events of interest, and they've got different colors. So my throughput is in purple, my error is in red, my bottlenecks are in orange, my latencies are in blue or dark blue, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so I can see over, in this case, the last 3 hours, and I can change this to something else. and I can see the relationship between my various services and various things. So I can see where I have problems, where I have issues, where I have things I need to focus on. Okay. Yep. So Bren, appreciate the question you asked about sharing you the user ID and password. Let me go back up here and grab it. Again, Baron, you're going to fire up a Google. And by the way, I hope I didn't mispronounce your name. But you're going to fire up a Google Chrome or Firefox browser. You're going to go to service.sumologic.com. You're going to pick a 3-digit number, anywhere from 001 to 999. I don't care what you pick. And then you're going to log in as Training Plus Analyst with that 3-digit number at sumologic.com. And the password is security21 ! With a capital S. So you're welcome. I'll give you a minute to log in there. And then, like I said, all I've done so far is I've gone to new and I've gone to root cause explore. And I've changed this range to 24 hours. I'm going to change it. I can change it to 6 hours, change it whatever the heck I want. Okay. And what I'm looking at here again is I'm looking at all kinds of events and certain things. So for example, here, just in the lower right-hand corner, I've got a Lambda error. This Lambda error is occurring on US East 1 based on a URL. It's the metric is some of my errors. It gives me an idea of its value, its drift, its time, and all that stuff. So on my x-axis down here is my time, my last 6 hours, going from right now to back 6 hours. And then this area on my y-axis is drift. And drift shows me how far off normal it is. So normally it would be, its normal place, but now maybe it's 100% over its value. Maybe it's 1,000% over its value. So this tells me when things are over their value. And so I can see the relationship between things, okay? And so I can see that I've got a Lambda error here, and I've got some deployment load points here, and then I've got this ELB application error here, and I can go back and there's a host bottleneck there, and there's a DynamoDB bottleneck here. I can see the relationship between all my microservices. And there may be, this may result in some problem that is, some microservice is causing these other cascading issues. Now, additionally, if I go up here, I can add filters. I can add filters if I'm on an AWS or host environment. I can break it down by my account ID, my region, my namespace, stuff like that. I can break it down by my Kubernetes information. I can break it down by my various application services, by application, by entity, by things like that. So I can break it down by one of these 3 areas. And if I want to, for example, here, let's just go into account ID here. I could pick a particular account that I want and filter my data for that account. I could go to a specific region, right? US East 1, US West 1 in the case of AWS. And this, when I select these, is going to start filtering my data down below. Now, if I want to reset my filters, I could click this trash can. This is going to reset my filters and remove the filters that I've applied. I can also, if I want to, go up here and throw the switch off, and that's going to, again, not apply my filters. So this kind of turns off my filters. This over here resets my filters. Now, the other thing is that I can filter based on whether it's a positive or negative impact. I can look at its percentage of drift, its percentage of duration. And again, duration is across my x-axis, drift is across my y-axis. I can look at seasonality and I can look at stability. And you're thinking, my gosh, what is seasonality? What is stability? I can tell you the answer to those questions, but the problem is you're going to forget it in 5 minutes. So let me show you where we can find that information out. If I go into the Sumo Logic navigation panel, and if I go into help, and if I go into documentation, this is going to take us to our documentation, okay? And you'll find in our documentation, we have a whole section on our observability solution. So if I click on our observability solution, I've got all kinds of information here about the observability solution. And I can go into monitoring with our observability solution. And there's my information about my root cause explorer over here. So over here on my left is my breakdown of my chapter that I'm in. And I want to go in here to root cause explorer. And there's a reason why I'm doing this, folks. Just humor me for a second. So here in my root cause explorer, it proceeds to tell me about all the technologies we work with. It proceeds to tell me about the 6 troubleshooting concepts. And you're going to see these 6 troubleshooting concepts in the test. So concept 1, this is going to help me identify abnormal spikes that are symptoms of underlying problems. Now, these are the golden signals that are typically created by Google. And so these are the 6 golden signals that we're troubleshooting. One of them is concept 1, abnormal spikes. Concept 2 is the context and correlation of spikes are essential strategies for root cause explorer. So you can see all of these wonderful concepts on this page and explains it out. Talks about those golden signals. Talks about these, how to set up root cause explorer. Then it goes into this and talks about all these filters. So it talks about what seasonality is, and it makes great test questions, which is why I'm telling you this. In fact, not only am I telling you this, I'm going to copy this page and I am going to paste this page in here because I promise you this page probably covers about 3 or 4 questions on the certification exam. So I would highly recommend that you bookmark this page if you're going to take the certification exam. So everything you want to know about root cause explorer is right here. And like I said, it's going to add a lot of questions and all that fun stuff. Okay. So just wanted you to be aware of that. By the way, for those of you who, maybe like old school like me, if you want to go out to our documentation, all you got to do is open up a new tab. And the URL is help.sumologic.com. That's help.sumologic.com. That will take you into our documentation. And here, all of our information is broken out into chapters. And you'll find that we have a chapter for our observability solution. And specifically what we're talking about right now is monitoring in our observability solution and our root cause explorer. Or you could do a search for root cause explorer anywhere in our documentation. And get there just as easy. Okay. So trying to find things in our documentation, I think is very easy, but I may be biased. Okay. All right. So now that we've talked a little bit about the root cause explorer, let me get back to our scenario. And let's talk about the lab that we're going to do. All right. Okay, Baron asked a really good question. Does observability come with a regular subscription or does it cost additional? I believe it's part of our regular package. It's now part of our regular offering. So as far as I know, that's the case. So I think observability is part and parcel of our product and our offering. So hopefully you see that. If I'm wrong, I'll double check the answer on that, Baron. But you guys, you should be able to go into your Sumo Logic environment and you should be able to see under new root cause explorer, as well as traces, as well as spans and all that sort of thing. Okay. And if you do, that means you've got those capabilities. And again, a couple of folks have joined here. So let me take care of them, make sure they can talk. And Jeff, I made you a promoter, a panelist, because you have an older version there. So welcome, folks. All right. So like I said, let me get back to the slide here. Let's get back to our scenario. So, ladies and gentlemen, congratulations and welcome to TravelLogic. TravelLogic is our fictitious site that you can book travel on. It's a fictitious company that we use, and you are a DevOps specialist for TravelLogic. Let me stop the slides here for just a second, if you don't mind. And let me go ahead and add here the TravelLogic site. So here we have TravelLogic, where you can book flights and hotel and flights, hotels, and cars, and travel around. And you would think in this day of COVID-19 that business is off, but no, business has been great. Things have been real well because it's a fictitious company, right? The log gen system has been generating log data and life is good. Business has never been better. Anyway, so we are part of the TravelLogic company. You are a DevOps specialist. And we use this TravelLogic application runs on AWS. And so we use the following AWS services. We use the application load balancer, or the elastic load balancer, ELB. We use host EC2, right? An EC2 environment. And we use DynamoDB. Now, the end users have experienced an outage in the application with a 5XX error. It could be a 500 error, 501, 502, we don't care. 5XX in the US East 1 area over the last 24 hours. So, being a DevOps specialist, our challenge is to troubleshoot and isolate and determine this root cause. That is what we are going to do. So again, we wanted you to log in. Hopefully you all are logged in. Again, if you haven't, service.sumologic.com, pick a 3-digit number anywhere from 001 to 999, log in as training plus analyst with that 3-digit number at sumologic.com. The password is security21 exclamation mark with a capital S. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to start investigating. Now, you may recall I posted up, and actually some of you joined late, probably didn't get this. So let me post up again the PDF for this class. So we have a lab guide that you can, I'm in the process of posting it up again, that you should be able to download from Zoom. And that lab guide looks just like this. And in lab 0, we wanted you to log in, and you did that. Hopefully you did that. So in lab 1, we are going to look at our root cause explorer for latency outages here, right? Talks about how we're TravelLogic and we're worried about ELB and host EC2 and all that good stuff. And then we're going to start walking through this. So we want to investigate this. And so we're going to start not in the root cause explorer. We're going to start in the explorer. So if you don't mind, I'm going to close this up for right now. Well, we'll use the root cause explorer. We're just going to go into the explorer. So I can click on explore here, or I can go here to new and explore. It doesn't make any difference. And here in my explorer, on my tab over here, I want to select AWS Observability. So I want you to select AWS Observability. So here I see AWS Observability, and I see all of our environments, our dev, our prod, and a couple of other environments that people have stood up. By the way, in the administration, the observability administration class, we show you how to stand these environments up, how to create these environments. Now, we are focused on prod, so I'm going to expand prod. We are focused on US East 1. So I'm going to click and open up US East 1. And here I see a dashboard. This dashboard proceeds to tell me where my activity is. In my US East 1, it's talking about my various, whether I'm creating, deleting, or updating resource activity and how much resource activity I'm taking. I can see here my requests served by my application load balancer and any application load balancers that are experiencing errors. I can see my API gateway errors here in a honeycomb diagram, as well as my traffic to the left of that. I can see my Lambda errors, my EC2 environment, my RDS environment, all kinds of neat stuff in this dashboard. And by the way, this dashboard comes part and parcel with AWS Observability. So when you stand up your AWS Observability, this dashboard is here. Now, when I selected prod and US East 1, it's automatically filtering for prod and US East 1. Now, not only is this dashboard here, but when I click on this, I've got a whole bunch of other dashboards that are here that are part of this. And so what we want to do is we want to focus on events of interest. So I'm going to click on AWS region events of interest, and I'll let that show up here for a second. But let me get back to our documentation. So we started off again, we started off with Explore By, selected our AWS Observability. We went to US East 1 and the prod account. Now we see the information here, and we're going to go up here and change this to events of interest. And that events of interest is going to show us a like root cause explore diagram. Whoops, excuse me. A like root cause explore diagram. Now, in this root cause explorer, I can see I have an ELB application error. And above that, I have a host bottleneck. And above that, I have a DynamoDB. And then down here below that, I have a Lambda error, which is not related. I can go out here, and again, I see my Lambda error. So I've got a Lambda error issue. That's not necessarily our worry, another Lambda error issue. But here I see the same pattern. An ELB app error, followed up with a host bottleneck, which is preceded by a DynamoDB. So this right here and this right here are a similar pattern. And those are things that we're concerned about. Remember, we're concerned about ALB, we're concerned about DynamoDB. Now, the point is that I can click on this and it brings up a side panel, and it's showing me here in a metric that I have a spike here. I have this particular metric here is my 500 count errors. So it's showing me there are 3 traces here. My current trace, which has a spike, which is right now my current trace. Then I have a trace from 1 day ago, which doesn't have a spike. And then I have one from 7 days ago, which doesn't have a spike. But here I can see that today, all of a sudden, I've got a spike. And I can see all kinds of information about that spike. I can also go up here and I can see my information about my host bottleneck. I've got some sort of a host bottleneck here that's being generated. And then that was preceded by my DynamoDB. So what I'm looking at here is my dissimilar systems and how they're interconnected. And to me, this is really, really powerful. I like this, that I can see across my environment here, basically what's going on. Now, what I really want to do is this dashboard is nice, but I really want to take this back to my real root cause explorer. This is a dashboard of my root cause explorer. So what I want to do is there's a more action button up here. There's a more action button down here. You want in the chart itself, the more action button, where it can then open up in root cause explorer. So we're going to take this back to our root cause explorer, where again, we can add more filters. We can investigate this. We can do all kinds of fun stuff. But here is our root cause explorer. Okay. And again, I notice here that I've got my ELB application error, my 500 errors, that is apparently preceded by my bottleneck, which is apparently preceded by my DynamoDB. And this happened just recently. Previously, in the last 12 hours ago, this also happened again. Okay. And so what I want to do is I want to investigate this. Now, again, in my timeline, this is what occurred first, my DynamoDB error. So this is probably what I want to pursue. The DynamoDB error, I'm going to assume, caused this bottleneck, which caused this error. So I want to look at what's causing all this. So I'm going to start with my DynamoDB. And for those of you who are following us in the book, we basically just went back here into the root cause explorer And that's where we are right now. We're on page 5. Okay. Let me move on to page 6. Now, like I said, I can look at these objects, and that's what they're doing on page 6. But I can also, by the way, if I want to here, oops, hang on a second, bear with me. I can also take this and magnify it. So I can focus on these 3 things. I can draw a box around it and magnify it. Now, again, what I really want to focus on here is my DynamoDB. And again, here's my traces. So today, all of a sudden, I've got this spike. A day ago, I saw a little activity, but nothing catastrophic. And then 7 days ago, it's pretty flat. And again, here's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at my write throttle events. This is the metric that I'm seeing, my write throttle events. So somehow when I'm trying to write to the database, I am having issues where I'm throttling those, and therefore I'm not doing my complete writes, which is ultimately causing my error. Now there's another tab over here called entities. And here I can see the associated entities and the things that I'm looking at. And if I want to here, I can open this up in other things, my traces, my spans, my metrics, my logs. But what I want to do is I want to open this back up in my entity dashboard. And that's what they're doing while that's going on. That's what they're doing here on page, there we go, page 10. So it's taking us back to our entity dashboard. So here we are in our entity dashboard. Again, we're in AWS Observability. We were at prod US East 1. Now we're inside of our DynamoDB node, looking at specific things. All of my throttle reads and my throttle writes look like they're in the green. But what I want to do is, again, I want to go up here and I want to focus on my events. So again, all these dashboards come with the AWS Observability solution when you set it up. So I want to go in here to my events. And I also probably want to change this because I'm not only seeing one error, right? And I probably want to see more than one error. So let me go back here for the last, let's go back to the last 24 hours and run this. There we go, 104 errors. That's a little better. Okay. And so here I can see where my users are logging in from. I can see how many errors I have. I can see whether these errors are related to create table, delete table, describe table, update table. I can see what users are being affected, what events are being affected. I can see my top errors, right? Here's my top errors. And then I can also see my table events. And I can see basically what's happening here with regards to my table events. Now, again, we've got an issue where we've got write throttling occurring. And I want to investigate this a bit further. So in our directions, right, we're looking at this information and that sort of thing. In our directions, it wants us to go to top errors, and it wants us to open it up in a log search. So I'm going to go back here. Here's my top errors, right? The errors that are occurring. I am going to click on this, and I am going to open this up in my log search. So now it's taking us back to our logs. Our logs always tell us why things are occurring. And it's running this query that basically produced that panel. So it's showing us this information, but here it is in the log panel. Now, the trick is I want to go back to my messages tab, and in my messages tab, these are the raw messages that make this information up. And what I want to do is I want to find a specific field here called event name. And I'm going to click on event name. And here in event name, I see there's 2 events. There's a describe table and there's update table. Well, if I've got a write throttling error problem, that means that somebody changed some settings to update my table. So I want to see only the messages associated with updating table. I don't care about describing table. So I can go in here to my event name. I can click on update table, and now it's going to filter for that specific event name. And here I can see as I go through my log messages that a specific user is changing the settings on my update table, and that's what's resulting in my right throttling. So I can see who changed the settings. I can see if I look in the message what settings they've changed. And so my point is that this allowed us to be able to troubleshoot and see what's going on. It says here in this book, the developer Mike Mann. Well, it wasn't Mike Mann. It was actually Ankit. And Ankit changed the settings in my my environment that caused that right throttling. They were trying to do some tuning, some database tuning, and they changed the value, and that value threw everything off. So we got to go back to Ankit and say, why did you change it? Let's change it back. Problem solved. Okay. So this is how, though, we can use this environment to help us solve those problems. What questions have you? Okay. Well, this is a good place to take a break. So if you don't mind, let me see if I can get this Zoom tab kind of out of my way here. And I will fire up my little 10-minute timer. And when this timer gets down to 0, I'd like you all to be back. So I'd like you back here in about 9 minutes and 55 seconds. Have a good break. Get yourself some coffee, tea, juice, water, whatever. We'll see you back here in about 9 minutes and 48 seconds. Okay, folks, hopefully we are back and ready to roll. So I'm not going to go through a lot of these slides, but again, this is basically the process that we went through as far as looking at things in the root cause explorer. And again, I'm just trying to get through these slides to talk about our 6 concepts here. So the root cause explorer really helps us deal with abnormal spikes, right? Abnormal spikes indicate an underlying problem, something we want to concern ourselves with. Concept 2 was context and correlation. Analyzing those spikes and putting them with regards to context and correlation, look at those events of interest, is essential in our root cause explorer. Concept 3, connections between the various resources help us understand pinpoint the problem. So for example, we saw that the error that we're experiencing, the 500 error, were caused ultimately by the DynamoDB. We could see how things were connected. And also, same token, besides the connection, I can also see based on earlier spikes. Earlier spikes are closer to the root cause of the issue. And then concept 5 here, the exploration of logs. Again, identifying the actual root cause requires us to look at the logs and the trace data. We're going to look at trace data here in just a few minutes. And then last but not least, the Amazon golden signals here help us focus on organizing our root cause explorer. And again, on that page I pointed out earlier, it gives a link to that information about those golden signals. But those are the 6 things that we cover. And those 6 things, like I said, you're going to find a test question or 2. So now we're going to move and get ready to go to the next lab and talk about our next conversation. So, poll question here. Applications using microservices-based architecture use distributed platforms, right? So again, they have multiple environments, multiple platforms. They typically have different layers of infrastructure. Which observability tool or technique will help us understand transaction level tracking, or more important, be able to go across those, see those tracking and tracing. Don says tracing. Don is absolutely correct. Yes, absolutely. So this is what we're going to focus on next. We're going to talk about tracing and how tracing can help us. So we're going to talk about, tracing. Now, metrics only can help us if we look for known failure conditions. We got to be able to capture that metric, right? We don't capture that metric, we don't know about a potential problem there. Logs typically tell us, again, what's happening, what the cause is, but tracing ultimately is going to help us see the transaction and where things fall and fail. So again, we're looking at activity. And the easiest analogy here that we can think about is shipping a package, right? I could send it through FedEx, UPS, Postal Service, whatever. And then once I set it off, it's going to go through various intermediate points, right? And then ultimately it will get to its destination, depending on how it goes. So there's a specific individual request path that it gets there. And then there is all the different paths that it could possibly have. And like I said, the easiest analogy to think about here is, hang on a second, is thinking in terms of shipping a package. But if I'm logging in, there is a transaction process that goes on. If I am buying something, going through a credit card, there is this transaction process that's going on. So to be able to trace through where I'm going, which nodes I'm playing with, and things like that are very, very helpful and very, very handy. Okay. Now, here, when we talk about observability at a glance, we're looking at our infrastructure information, and obviously we want to be able to see that. But we also want to look at our platform technologies, whether we're using Kubernetes, Lambda, whatever. We want to be able to see that, as well as our app components and our application. So you will find that when we look at observability, we want to be able to see how things go from our application to our various components into our platform technologies. And we want to be able to see that tracing, that transactional activity, and how it occurs. So as I said before, when I log in, there's a certain path that I might have. When you log in, you may take a different path. When we place orders, again, we'll have a specific path. We pay our bill, we log out. And we want to be able to see where we go from point A to point B to point C to point D. So for this, we're going to use the fictitious company again of Sumo Logic Coffee. Sumo Logic Coffee delivers a fast, hot cup of coffee. Thousands of locations around the world. Think of it kind of like that green company, green labeled company, only we're better. Okay, and we're fictitious. Now, if you think about it, if somebody orders coffee, customer places an order. The order posts to the barista. The barista initiates the coffee machine. The machine checks the bean levels. And if it has beans, it grinds the beans. It checks the water levels. If it has water, it gives water. The customer is then ready for the customer. Their coffee is ready for the customer. Customer pays for the order. Credit card is approved. Customer picks up the order. Now, there is one small flaw in this process. We made a cup of coffee for a customer, but they haven't paid yet, right? If you go into some coffee shop now, they typically ask you to pay for it first to make sure that the transaction is approved before they waste the resources and make the cup of coffee. So while this process looks correct, it is, like I said, if you go to pick up coffee, at least where I go to pick up coffee, they want to make sure you pay for it first before they make it, just to make sure that the transaction, they're not wasting resources. But each one of these steps along the way is a microservice. And so each one of these, we want to be able to see the transaction and the flow across this, right? So let's put this into perspective here. Abel's a coffee lover. He loves coffee from Sumo Logic. And so when he orders coffee, he basically turns it over to the barista. Now, there's two players at this. There's the machine service that the barista is going to use. And that machine service may have a water service and a coffee service. The coffee service looks for the beans, grinds the beans. Water service shows that if I got water and then dispenses the water. Now, additionally, there's the payment system. So the host, not the barista, typically takes the credit card information and makes sure that you can pay for the product. So what we want to do is provide you a diagram and provide you information so that you can see how traces occur. And if there's any problems, we want to indicate those in red. And so this is what tracing is all about, right? Remember, my client offers his coffee, the barista gets the order, processes the order, delivers the coffee. But it's a little more complicated than that, right? If you were an observer, you would see that the client offers the coffee, the barista receives the order at a specific time, prepares the coffee, delivers the coffee, but then there's all those intermediate steps that go on here. So what happens is the act of a customer requesting a specific coffee, that is a trace. And obviously I've got lots of clients who want lots of coffee, so I'm going to have lots of traces. But within a specific trace, I have a series of microservices events that occur. Again, the client ordered the coffee. The barista receives the request. These are spans. So spans are within a transaction, a specific transaction. Spans are the actual points of that transaction. So there's traces and there's spans. And so the first thing I'm going to introduce you to is service maps. So let me just stop my slides for just a second. Let me actually go out here to my lab 2 exercise here. And here in lab 2, we want to start with a service map. So I want to go into my Sumo Logic environment. Again, I want to log in. This time I'll log in as me. I don't care. Nice security feature is trying to log me out if I'm idle for a while. So I'm going to log in. And here under new, I've got something here called service map. Yay. Let me click on service map. So here I can see two different things. I can see a payment type system here. And then I can see my coffee lover app here. And then I've got a couple of other things that are there that people are setting up some traces and setting up some things here for troubleshooting. So what I can do here is I can actually filter this, and I want to see only the coffee bar app. So up here where it says application name, I can specify the coffee bar app. Now, Let's talk about what we're seeing. First of all, we're seeing circles for the most part. Some clouds, but a lot of circles. And the circles are either in blue or they're in red. Red indicates there's an abnormality, right? That's what it says here. Abnormality. Blue is normal. The size of my circle is the amount of requests per second. So the bigger the diameter of the circle, the more requests per second I am getting. By the way, I can, you can, we can, zoom in, we can zoom out if we want to. And then these clouds are related to remote activities that are part and parcel of this. So here, if I look at my coffee bar consists of my coffee machine. This consists of my machine service. My machine service consists of my water service as well as my coffee service. Okay. If I look at my coffee bar again and I go to the cash desk, there I see my cash desk, and I can see various other components of my cash desk. Those services right now aren't showing up, but and by the way, I can hide these remote services if I want to with a switch. But here I can quickly see that there's something wrong with my coffee service. So I can click here on coffee service. And again, I can see, again, some metrics here as far as how things are going on. And I can open this up to, if I want to, in either my traces or my spans. Now, I believe in the book, it wants us to open these up in our traces. Okay. So we're going to open this up in our traces. I'll talk about traces and spans in just a minute. So when I open this up in my traces, I am looking here at all of the various traces that I have, all the various requests for coffee. And I can see how long they're taking, whether they're taking milliseconds or whole seconds. I can see when they started, all that fun stuff, the trace ID and all. Now, I can also, if I want to, look at a specific trace and go into it. And this gives me the trace view of this. And so here I can see my different colors represent my different microservices. This is not a good example. Let me go back. I want to actually close this up. And let me get one where I've got a lot of different colors here. Okay. So this service up here is my check suite function for somebody wants to order pastries and things like that. This is another different microservice. This is a microservice and so forth and so on. Now, as I go down here, these are my more detailed transactions. The ones with the red bar on them are where I'm occurring in error. And so what I want to do is try to find the lowest object with the red bar, and I can then see what's going on. So for example, here, I see on my cache desk, I'm going to look up at this cache desk, I see that I've got a red bar on it. Now I can click on that red bar, and again, I have the option to open up my logs, looking at the span or looking at the trace. Remember, the trace is the whole thing. The span is this specific portion of this. And that's what I want to do. I want to look at my span information here. So this is going to open up my logs, and my latest message, and my log is on top. My earliest messages are on the bottom. So here it's talking about payment in progress, get product price, query database for price. Here's my error, right? And it says here, it looks like my transaction failed. What I was expecting to see was insufficient balance here. But it basically told me, here's my error, and then I can investigate this error and see what's causing this error. So when I'm looking at transactional things, I can see where my errors are, and I can investigate those errors. Okay. For my various transactions. Let me go after this one for a second. And here Looks like I'm doing my post. Here's my machine service. It's got a red arrow on it. Again, I'm going to click on it. I'm going to open up my span ID. Take me to my logs, and I've got nothing. Hang on a second. I think I went to the wrong place. There we go. Prepare coffee. Try that. Well, one. All right. So here is my request for get new order, and here I've got no water. So the point is I can go through my logs and I can see where I'm having problems. And maybe I need a bigger water reservoir, or maybe I need to train my Bartistas about checking the water, or maybe I need a constant water source. But the point is that your transactions, whether you're doing credit card transactions or you're doing whatever type of transactions you're doing, again, you can now see across those transactions. And so that's what we're trying to show you here in Lab 2, showing you the service map, and then we're also showing you how you can investigate this. One little thing I do want to point out, because it is on the exam, you'll notice here that I have, it says air span only, this little switch. I can throw the switch and now it kind of grays out all the non-error things, making it easy to focus on my errors. If you don't see this switch, it's because you don't have any errors. So if I were to find one here with zero, number of zeros, 0, and I were to open it up, I don't have one, you would see that switch doesn't exist. So if that switch doesn't exist, it's because there are no errors. Test question. Want to make sure you're aware of it. Okay. And so that, folks, takes care of lab number 2. Now, let's go back here to my slides. And here again is my hands-on exercise for this that we just did. And so we are in good shape here. Hang on a second. This one's probably kind of a handy one to see. So why am I seeing? Well, basically here, again, your service maps typically tell us the relationship between our elements. It talks about when you use RUM dashboards. Well, you haven't talked about RUM dashboards. RUM dashboards, just so you know, if I go into my Explorer, in my Explorer, we have a whole new category of things called real user monitoring, RUM dashboards. And these tell us how long transactions might be taking with regards to some specific app. So I can, you can, we can see how long things are taking as far as page load time, latency, and stuff like that. Real user monitoring, but that's not really in this course. So don't worry about it from the test perspective. But service maps tell us the connection between our various microservices. And then we can use tracing to drill down to our various logs to see what's going on as far as our transaction tracing. Then we have span analytics. And again, span analytics basically take us into the Sumo logs to see basically what's going on with regards to that span. Okay. And that brings us to our next little activity here. And I really wish my presentation button would show up. It's decided to show me version history here. Let's see if I can turn that off. Okay, well, I'll deal with that later. So here we are, poll activity. Okay. With the help of metrics, we get an indicator that something's wrong with our app. We now want to figure out why it's happened. And so what tool would we use to understand the why of something happened? This is something that we've always talked about. This is something in all of our classes. We talk about metrics tell us what is going on, but logs tell us why. And Eric is absolutely correct. So Eric, thank you very much. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go into the next lab, lab 3. When are logs the best bet in observability? So we're going to go through a scenario again, okay, where we're going to start with our new and our explore. So let me close up all of this stuff. Let me close up this as well. Let's go ahead and click on explore. And here under explore, again, I want to go into AWS observability. So again, new explore, AWS observability, prod US East 1. And I'm trying to get it to turn the page. There we go. Okay, so prod US East 1. And we're hearing there's issues about Lambda, where there's some Lambda issues. So we're going to jump down here into our AWS Lambda dashboard here so that we can basically see what's going on with our Lambda issues. And I can see where my users are basically coming from. I can see where my AWS services are, my top AWS users here who are logging things in. And I'm waiting for these to resolve. Well, I'll tell you while I'm waiting for those to resolve, I can go down here and see I've got 7,740 function errors. The highest one, again, here is my database authentication error, invalid credentials, okay? So I can see here that I'm generating a lot of errors based on a lot of functions. This particular function is get billing information. And so I can go up here if I want to in my function name, and I can type in get billing information. I think I got that right. We'll see here in a second if it resolves or not. Okay, come on. Okay, good. All right, good. So now I can see that out of my get billing information, I have 720 errors. So I can use these to kind of filter things out and see how things are going. Okay. Now, additionally, I can see successful versus failed requests. I can see my most frequently function operators here and where these are being used. Now, again, our goal here is to see where log can really help us. So in this exercise in lab 3, I've gone through here and filtered and pointed some stuff out. And we see we got 720 errors on our get billing information, and we filtered for get billing information here. And so now what I want to do is I want to go look at my most frequent function operator. The reason I want to look for my most frequent function operator is I know that query contains certain information. These all contain certain fields and certain information, but this one has some fields that I really like. So I'm going to go into this. I'm going to open this up in my log search. And so again, here I'm seeing in my aggregate, once this thing runs, that I have events of invoke, I have events of list function, I have events of update function code, and update my function configuration. What we want to do is we want to focus this and filter this on my update function configuration. So again, I'm going to go back here. I'm going to look at my event names, and I want to select and filter for my update function configuration. That adds this line to my query. Now I can see here that Mark Smith is my user, and this is the reason I went to this query. This query I know has the username. The other queries did not. But Mark Smith updated my database function and put in the get billing information, my database login information. And that is what's failing. Users are, remember back here. Sorry, remember back here that in my get billing information, that my database authentication information was invalid credentials. So from this function. So now as I investigate this function, this specific function, I can see that Mark Smith changed my credentials. And so now I can ask Mark why they did that and fix that. So that's a good example of using logs to help ourselves out working with logs, okay, as far as troubleshooting. Now, additionally, here in Lab 4, there's other things that we can use logs for, and we can use things like log reduce and other things. So a lot of times it's really helpful and handy to play and use our logs so we can go in here and create a log search. Let me give you a good example. I want to look at my snort logs. So I'm going to go in here and go into my source category. Notice as I start typing in, starts giving my choices. So I'm going to use the source category, and I'm going to use lab/snort. Those of you not familiar with snort, snort is a application firewall type device. And it shows me all of the various attacks and information and stuff that we may have been experiencing. Now, I'm looking, I already have 1,287 records over the last 15 minutes. So if I want to look at, say, the last 24 hours, that's going to be a lot of logs, a lot of information here to go through, 150,000 records. Good news, with Sumo Logic, you don't have to worry about that. You can click log reduce, and log reduce will match these log messages based on their pattern, based on the information they're providing. And it will combine my like log messages. So now out of my, and it's going to be more than 8,000, this is still processing, but out of my whatever thousand, I can see the top 10,000 is this issue. So this kind of tells me what I want to focus on. This can tell me, where my issues might be. Okay. And I'm just waiting for this query to finish up. Okay, it's done, finally done. Took a whopping 45 seconds, but if you're looking at that many records, that's not too bad. So out of my 150,000 records, 76,000 are this issue. Now, you can take and investigate this issue, and you can say, gee, what's this issue about? All right, it says configuration file access. Well, when I look into this, I find that the users ran an update to some software which modified the config file, and this then showed up as an alert. Okay, so it's not really a real problem. And so you can go here and you can demote this, or you can promote this. Now, if you don't promote it or demote it, it will give it a relevant score based on its count. But if I demote it, for example, and make it 0, if I promote it, it makes it a high value of 10. The point is that you're going to use this count along with this relevant score to figure out where your issues are and where you need to focus on. So here I've had some issue trying to gain privileges, gain the administrative privilege. That's a real issue. That's a real problem. And so I need to look at these issues. And by the way, I can click on those, take me back to my logs and show me the specific log messages where they tried to gain permissions and where they tried to gain that privilege. I can see the IP address. I can see all kinds of information. I can also, if I need to, look at from either by the category or from by the host or whatever, I can look at plus or minus the messages within plus or minus a minute or 5 minutes or 10 minutes, the messages before and after, surrounded by this, what led to before this, what happened after this. So I think you're going to find that the log reduce is really kind of handy. Okay. Kind of tells me what's going on. Now, log reduce is great, but we also have log compare. And log compare basically allows me to compare other timeframes. So here I'm looking at this issue and I'm thinking to myself, do I really have a problem? Well, you know what? One of the other indicators that might help me is if I can compare this data with, say, a week ago or a day ago or 2 days ago or whatever. And so that's what log compare does. Log compare, when I click on it, it's going to go back a certain period of time. In this case, it's going to go back 24 hours. If you don't mind, I'm going to change this. I'm going to have it go back 7 days and rerun this. So what is it doing? It's looking at my snort logs for the last 24 hours from now. Going back 24 hours, it's going to do a log reduce. Then it's going to go back 7 days, go back 24 hours, do a log reduce, and then it's going to show me the difference. So here, as I look at the difference, I can see our things significantly change. This one's up 22%, probably something I want to look at. This one's up 88%, okay? So again, it gives you an indication here of what is changed. Also, you might see words like new or gone. If it wasn't there before and it's there now, it's new. If it was there before and it isn't there now, it's gone. So you can see either a percentage, or you can see words like new or words like gone. And so here in lab 4, they want us to use the log reduce operator. They want us to use the log compare operator and show you some of the cool functions that we use. Now, another operator that we have is the log explain operator. The log explain operator lets me compare a control set against another set of data. And the easiest way to explain this is, let me copy this code and let me go ahead and paste this in. And let me go back here 24 hours and run this. Hang on. Let's move that back. There we go. Apparently the lovely word wrap here got us into trouble. There we go. And we're just having some fun now, so bear with me. Well, we get this one too. All right. What am I missing? What am I missing? What am I missing here? That one here. Okay, well, let me change this to a shorter time frame just to make it easier. Okay, so what I have here is I have a situation where it's saying by AWS region, US West 1, everything matched, okay? My control coverage here was 69%. My test coverage, my known quantity set here is 100%. And then if I add more things in here, specifically a username, a source IP, whatever, I can see based on my 2 sets, how much of a match that I have. And so this is my log explain, okay? Okay. Jason, give me a minute here. I will, I'll show you that. In fact, actually, yeah, I'll show you that. I'll come back to that, Jason. So thank you. But I'll show you that. So this log explain, and again, if you wanted to, you can go to Sumo Logic. Log explain, just do a simple Google search. And there we go, log explain Sumo Logic. So log explain, like I said, is designed to compare sets of structured logs based on JSON or CSV. And it proceeds to talk about the control coverage, the control set versus the test set. And in your query, you'll define what's control, what's test. And basically, it allows you to compare 2 sets of data is what it does. So that basically is that. Okay. And so that pretty much wraps this course up. Now, let me go back and answer Jason's question. Jason's question was, I'm not seeing, wants to know where the slides and the labs are located. And again, because you guys are getting ready for the exam, this is a good thing to touch base on and review. So if we go to the Sumo Logic community, so again, in Sumo Logic, in our help, here is community. Now, You can get to community if you want to type in a URL by going to support.sumologic.com. And then in that, you want to click on the community section. And if you search for slides, as I mentioned earlier today, you will get this page. And this page has all of our slides and all of our labs and all that stuff for all of our courses. So here we are in the Observability Fundamentals class, and that's where you can find this information. So let me copy this, put this in the chat box. Yep. And Jason, that's fine. I will gladly turn on your mic. Thank you for mentioning that. Usually pretty good about checking that stuff, but there you go, Jason, you're online.
Thank you very much.
No problem. So that's where you can find it. And again, some of the test questions are based on the slides. Some of them are based on other documentation. Again, as I mentioned before, that root cause explorer page in our documentation has a lot of test questions with regards to that. So what questions do you all have with regards to observability? Any questions? By the way, if you want to know how to stand this stuff up, you probably want to come back for the observability administration class, where we show you how to configure and how to stand this stuff up. Okay, how to set up open telemetry tracing and stuff like that. As far as getting to the exam, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to log out of our training environment. Why? Because you're logged in as training analyst, and we want to make sure you, by your name, get credit for this. So log out of our training environment, and you want to log into your company's environment, where you're logged in with your first name and your last name. So you're going to log into your company's environment. So you're logged in with your first name and your last name. And I'm going to close all these up just to make things nice and neat. And then you can click on the Home tab. You can click on Certification. And when you click on Get Certified, hopefully it takes you, like it does me, into our learning management system. If it doesn't take you into our learning management system, it's not a bug, it's actually a security feature. So if it doesn't take you here, if rather it takes you, when you click here, it takes you there, that's actually a security thing. And the way you're going to fix that is you're going to open up the navigation panel in your company's environment. You're going to go down to Help. You're going to click once again under Help, under Community. And when Community comes up, you should get this dialogue, a panel will pop up saying, we need to verify your email. Here's the issue. We have a fiduciary duty to you to protect you from going from one environment to another. So whether you want to go from your Sumo Logic environment to our community, or you want to go to our LMS, we want to make sure we have your permission to do this. So when you go to community, it asks you, would you please verify your email address and give us permission? So there's a little button that you click on that will then about a minute later generate an email. In that email, in the body of that email, is a little button that says, yes, I'm giving permission. Once you click that button, then from that point forward, you'll be able to go here to Home, here to Certification, click Get Certified, and it will take you into our LMS. Problem solved. Okay. It's a one-time type deal. Okay. Brian asked a really good question. How much % server space does observability take up? As far as the footprint of affecting your servers, not much, but I'm going to also mention to you that it will increase your ingest quite a bit. So depending on what you're bringing in and all that stuff, you will typically see your ingest levels go up. How much? I don't know, Baron. I would recommend that you ask your sales engineer and your sales folks to see what the impact of that's going to be. So, but as far as your server space, your ingest, I guess, how much that's going to increase, I would encourage you to ask them. Obviously, everybody's got different settings, different data, different metrics and stuff they bring in. So but it will increase. It will definitely. It will definitely bring up your ingest. Your ingest will jump up a bit, quite a bit. Now, when I'm in the LMS here, I see all of our various tiles for all of our various courses. Down here is our observability tile. If you click on the observability tile, You'll see here's the observability fundamentals exam. Here's the administration exam, but we want to focus on the observability fundamentals exam. That's what we talked about today. Now, before I go here, and I'm going to show you something, I want you to be aware of something here. First of all, up here in the upper right-hand corner is your profile. And so you can go into your profile and you should be able to see all the exams that you completed. And you can add them to your LinkedIn profile and all that good stuff. I mentioned this for a reason. If I open up my observability fundamentals exam and you get to register it, and this registration process takes a split second. So the minute I click on registration, boom, I'm registered. I'll have an email telling me I've registered. Now, again, if you're following along with me, please don't stay where you are, watch for a second. So here, before I start, right, tells me there's 20 questions, not 30 like we usually have. And you got 60 minutes to complete it. The book is open, the exam is open book, open note, open slides. You can even ask the instructor questions, all right? We want to try to help you. And then the exam, the questions are presented in fill in the blanks, matching text, multiple choice, matching, whatever. A passing score is only 70, not 75 like most of our exams. You'll find that when we add a new certification, we try to make it a little easier to get some more data here on these questions. Now, when I click next, it's going to take me to the exam. And again, I don't want you to start yet. I want you to watch for a second. So it tells me I got 20 questions, 60 minutes, 1 attempt. And whenever you're ready, I click this button. My timer will now start. Now, this is our new testing interface. So here I can see all my questions and I can switch back and forth between them. And I can start answering my questions one at a time here. How do I get to my root cause explorer? Well, I can click new and then root cause. It's that simple, okay? That question's answered. Which entities are highlighted on the root cause explorer? The ones that are highlighted are my events of interest, which is my throughput, bottleneck, et cetera, I believe. It's either that or my AWS host. I'll check here. But anyway, bottom line is I'm going to click next. And then I'm going to submit my answers. Now, obviously, I'm going to fail, but there's a reason why I'm doing that. I'm going to submit my answers here, and I only got one question right. So if I scroll down here and look, the first question I got right. So the second one, the entities that are highlighted are my AWS, my Kubernetes, and my applications. Those are the ones. That should be the correct answer. Sorry, I got that one wrong. Bottom line is you can see what questions you got wrong, but here's the big thing. When you take this and you pass this, please make sure you click the submit results so it adds it to your profile. If you don't click submit results, the exam did not happen. It's not part of your profile. You won't see your certificate. You're going to have to do it again. Okay. And I don't want you to have to do that. So remember, whenever you take an exam from us, hit that submit results button, and then it'll add it to your record. And that's why I wanted to show you this. Are there any questions about this? Any questions about the exam?
Nope.
Cool. All right, well, let me turn my camera on real quick. And again, let me say thank you for hanging with me yesterday and today. This is the end of today's session. But what I'm going to be here for is I'll be here while you take the exam. And I encourage you all to do so. Take the exam. And I'll be here in case you get any problems or questions. Otherwise, if there's anything else I or anybody at Sumo Logic can do for you, please let us know. You guys should all have my contact information. I put it out there earlier. I'll put it out there again if you want it and need it. For those of you going to be at AWS reInvent at the end of after Thanksgiving in the US, I will be there. I'll be at booth 166. Come on by and say hi. Otherwise, I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to stop the recording, and we are going to have ourselves a chance to take the exam. And when you're done with the exam, or if you don't want to take the exam, whatever, feel free to sign out. Have yourselves a wonderful day. Please be safe, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you much, guys. Stop the recording.